Street and the banking industry not only got a $700 billion bailout, but the original form of that bailout was a 3-page document that might as well have been scribbled on the back of a napkin. The final form of that document might as well have been a shorter note still reading, "Leave the money in a brown paper bag and don't ask any questions." Our third story tonight, $34 billion for the auto industry? Heresy, for some reason. Michael Moore joins me in a moment. Tomorrow, the big three automaker bosses return to Congress to defend their request for what was $25 billion, and is now $34 billion. By the year 2012, GM is proposing to put out as many as 30,000 more Americans on the street, out of work, along with 1,800 dealers. Meantime, one gigantic cautionary tale in the new report from the GAO, the Government Accountability Office. It's finding no accountability from this government for the $150 billion already pumped into the nation's banks in less than 2 months since the bailout began. Democrats expressed outrage today, despite the fact that they passed the bailout over objections it gave the Treasury too much leeway. President-elect Obama, who also supported it from the Senate, acknowledged as much.
The GAO report has now come out. We're seeing some areas where we can be doing better in making sure that this money is not going to CEO compensation, that it's protecting taxpayers, and that the taxpayers are going to get their money back, that it's effective in shoring up our financial markets.
Let's turn now to the filmmaker and author Michael Moore, who is joining us from his home state of Michigan. Good evening, Michael.
Good evening, Keith.
All right, let's jump right in with your proposal today for what to do about GM and the auto industry and what we can sort of buy with this bailout. Lay it out for us.
Well, first of all, I just want to say that, you know, when the three automaker chiefs went to Washington, they were treated like errant school children and then sent back home to Detroit to write an essay on why we should get free cash. When the Wall Street bankers and thieves came down there back in October, it was just the opposite. Nobody asked them what they flew down on. The hearing room looked like a cigar bar. I mean, seriously, I mean, all that was missing was the photographer from Cigar Aficionado. It was just step right up, boys. Oh yeah, big finance, great, we love that. Car guys show up from the Midwest. What's this, manufacturing? What do you guys do? You build things. No, we like the guys who just make money off their money. So this hasn't been lost on any of us who are from this part of the country. Having said that, that's not a defense of the big three here, but frankly, any money given to the current management is just going to be money that's being flushed right down the toilet. They don't have a clue about how to run these companies. They are basically wanting us to give them money because people don't want to buy their cars. And the reason they say now is they don't want to buy them is because we have a global economic problem going on. But the real point is that they've had this problem now for about 3 decades. So I think what has to happen here, and this is what my proposal would be to Congress, is that GM wants $18 billion. The total worth of all the common stock in GM right now is a little less than $3 billion. $3 billion. They want us to give them $18 billion. Now, why would we give them $18 billion when they're only worth $3 billion? I mean, that makes, I mean, it's like if my house was worth $100,000 and I came to you, Keith, I said, hey, Keith, why don't you loan me like $700,000? I'll put up my house as collateral. It's only worth $100,000. But, I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. Why give them this money? I think that if we're really serious about trying to fix the transportation problems in this country and all the other problems that surround it in terms of our lack of oil and the running out of oil under this planet that's going to happen sometime in our lifetime or our children's lifetime, we have to really treat this like a crisis. And so I would encourage Congress to do what Franklin Roosevelt did at the beginning of World War II, where he just said to the big three, you're not building cars anymore because we have a crisis. You've got to build tanks and planes and the other things that they needed in World War II. This new president and this Congress has to say to the big three, I'm sorry, but this car thing isn't working out. We're running out of oil. So you need to build hybrids, electrics, and we need mass transportation. So you got to build trains and subways and light rail and all this. And that's going to be the policy of this country. And we're going to tell you what to do because we just gave you collectively, if they get the $34 billion, if you're going to give you $34 billion, we're going to own your ass. I mean, that really should be. I mean, I can't figure out how it could be any other way. I just.
But having said that, it makes...
Sorry about swearing there.
No, please get in line. The thing sounds so good. Obviously, it can't happen. Why wouldn't it happen? Who is benefiting from the idea that that would not happen, that we wouldn't get 21st century mass transit and greener cars and the rest of that?
Well, there's not as big a profit in that. You see, this is what's amazing about, like, for instance, the GM proposal. Give us $18 billion, and as part of our proposal, this is what they gave Congress yesterday, we're going to eliminate another 20 to 30,000 jobs. In other words, we're going to give our taxpayer money to the car companies so they can throw more people out of work. That's been their big idea for the last 30 years. They've been throwing people out of work by the tens of thousands for the last 3 decades, and nobody ever stopped to say, gee, who's going to buy the cars if everybody's been thrown out of work? I mean, it's just been insanity, and unless Congress and the new president gets in charge of this thing and says, look, we have to save these millions of jobs. I mean, the industrial infrastructure of this country is critical to our national security. It's critical to our economy. You know, we Americans have to be transported around, and so because this is a huge priority, we're going to call the shots from now on. So yes, this money needs to go to this infrastructure, but it must not go to the people running these companies and just doing window dressing things like working for $1 a year or don't fly in your private jet anymore. I mean, that's just, I mean, that makes everybody maybe feel a little bit better, but that's not really what the problem is. The problem is that these geniuses thought that everybody would want to buy a Hummer and that somehow there was an untold amount of oil under the earth, so let's keep building these big SUVs. Mistake after mistake after mistake. Why would we reward them for these mistakes? This current management, they need to be fired and removed. The government needs to get in charge of this thing. It's our money. We should be able to call the shots.
And given the fact that $1 a year is way too much for that one guy. The documentary filmmaker Michael Moore, as always, it makes great sense. Let's see if there's any chance of it happening. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Keith.
Even though they actually first lit it on last week's Wednesday edition of Countdown,